Alright, so what's up, fellas? What's up, everybody? Today, my guest is Allon Avgi. Am I saying your last name right, by the way?
Allon Avgi.
Allon Avgi.
Yeah.
Alright, Allon Avgi. There we go.
It's alright, I grew up with that.
Yeah?
Teachers used to call me Alone sometimes.
Oh, man, that's gotta suck.
Yeah, it was all good. I still get it all the time.
So, I almost just called you Alone because you put it in my head.
It's alright, it's Alone at the top, right?
Yep.
I'm not there yet, though, but whatever.
Alright, so, Allon, seriously, one, it's cool reconnecting with you. You and I met about maybe 4 or 5 years ago at this point. We met up at Eisenhower Park. I was out doing some parkour. You were doing some bar stars, calisthenic training.
Yeah.
And we connected on the movement, which was really cool. And it was good vibes. From the beginning, your group of friends were there, my group of friends were there, and like the whole group just came together. We were chilling. And I don't think either of us knew that we were gonna know each other long past that day. It was just hanging out, exploring movement together, and just being a couple kids at the park, really.
Yeah.
And
That was what? 5 years ago now?
Yeah.
6 years ago?
seriously, and now like our paths are starting to cross again because I've stepped into the entrepreneur and investor space. You've been in this entrepreneur investor space, and here we are today because of a relationship that got built so long ago. That's something I want to bring up later and tap into later. But what I want to start with today is learning a little bit about you and your backstory, about your journey with entrepreneurship and what that looked like. You know, you're an immigrant to the country, correct?
Yeah.
So you came here, you weren't even born here, and you've had a pretty interesting story. I actually heard it on our buddy Justin's and Frank's their podcast,
Yeah.
Young Minds podcast.
Yeah.
I heard a bit of your story there, but I never actually got to get the story from you in person.
Yeah.
So if you're cool with it, I would love to catch that story right now.
Yeah. I mean, I'll brief it up a little bit so we don't go through 24 years. But my parents met in Israel when my mother was in the Israeli army. They got married in Israel pretty quickly, and they were real young, super young, and some shit hit the fan over there. My grandfather passed away. My parents didn't want to be there any longer, so they moved to America. And when we came to America, I mean, it was starting totally fresh. You know, all of us, me, my brother, my sister, my dad, my mom, the 5 of us grew up in like an attic in the middle of Long Island.
Wow.
And every day it was a daily battle, you know. Mom and dad would grind at work. They'd go crazy morning to night. The landlord at the house happened to stay home a lot, so she kind of looked after us. I have amazing parents. They've always been the best parents in the world. They would work nonstop so we could have food on the table and, you know, just move on to the next stage and the next stage and the next stage. And long story short, my parents saved up enough and bought a pickup truck. Not a pickup truck, a van.
Nice.
And the van, my mom was working at a furniture store at the time, and she would hire my dad to do the deliveries, so he would deliver mattresses. And then they saved up from that because my dad didn't speak a lick of English, not one word.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, back then.
That's crazy.
So he learned English just throughout being here by himself and figuring it out.
Wow, that's even tougher, coming to a whole new country, brand new place, new friends, new relationships, new neighborhoods, and not even speaking the language.
Yeah, no friends. They had no time for friends.
Wow.
You know, and then they ended up saving up enough to open their own furniture store. And fast forward a few years, they bought the store that my mom used to work at, and they had a few stores, and things were going well, and then the economy collapsed. And all throughout this time, I was a little kid, and my brother and sister, and I was always trying to figure out how to make some money. So I would go to the golf course and hire 2 kids to tag along with me. I'd give them half of what I would get paid to caddy for the guys in Sayville. We'd jump over the fence and run over and just ask them if they would let us. You know, the amount of things I did to try and make $1 was ridiculous. You
Dude,
know?
That's insane. So with that, where did that, was that from your parents? Were they encouraging you to do that, or were you coming up with these ideas on your own of, I'm going to go figure out how to hustle for some money and make this happen, you know? Because that's pretty ballsy, like being a kid and like saying like, oh, look at I'm golfing over there. I'm about to jump over, see if I can get a little money, get a little work out of this.
Yeah.
So,
it wasn't, my parents always encouraged us to figure it out, but it was like there wasn't an option. You know, it's like there is no money. So if you don't figure it out, you're not going to get it, you know? And although I always hear like, oh, people talk to me and tell me, you know, you don't come from it from money. So it's they have the advantage. Although I agree, there is a monetary advantage. I think I have an advantage because a lot of people that I work with or that are in the same industry, it's generational real estate. It's a generational heavy industry. Nepotism is real in real estate.
Absolutely.
So I had to feel that. They didn't have to feel that, a lot of the people I work with, which is okay. More power to them. If they become cocky and whatever, I don't want to deal with them, and I'm always real to myself. If I don't want to deal with them because of that, go fuck yourself. But anyway, I was always lucky not to have it, and I grew up struggling to always want it. And even a lot of it was by choice. Because at a certain point, I could have worked for my parents and delivered mattresses and collected $100 a day. Mind you, the economy collapsed. It was a big mess. They were saving everywhere they can. When I worked for them, I worked for free. And at that point, I realized I have to make money too. So it was, listen to my day. 5 a.m., I'd get up, I'd go running. I'd go to school by 7 till I believe it was 2 o'clock. I was at school. I got off last period. I would shoot out to the warehouse out in Copeg, bring in furniture from California, Texas, and China online because nobody could see me behind a computer screen. I was 16 at the time.
Wow.
Bring in furniture, wrap it up myself, ship it out with FedEx, shoot back to school for wrestling practice, wrestle for 2 to 3 hours, leave wrestling practice, shoot back to Copeg to go over the FedEx trucks that came and picked up, compare the tracking numbers, deal with customers because I let the line connect straight to the store at the time. And then I'd come back home at like 10, 11 at night every day. Years I did that. Years. So it was just a daily battle my whole life. And it's by choice. In the beginning I had to, and then I wanted to.
Right.
And now I'm so happy I dealt with that and worked with that. And keep in mind, my parents also in the same boat. They always grinded. Till this day, my father and I work together. My dad is morning to night, loving every day. And it's amazing. This is the best life I could have asked for, and where I see myself in the next 3 to 5 years. I'm putting myself there, and that makes me happy.
See, I absolutely love that. And I think right there, you speaking on this and showing that it's real, you are tapping into something a lot of people don't see behind the scenes. A lot of people think that success is getting to this point where you don't work anymore, or work is very minimal. But the most successful people, at least the people that I've come across in my life, the people that I see as truly successful, they're workaholics. They are work addicts, and I love it. Absolutely. Waking up 5 a.m. like you just said, like from 5 a.m. till 10 p.m. every day at the age of 16, you are out there grinding. And I'm sure if I ask you if you had a social life, I'm pretty sure that answer is like, no.
I had a girlfriend. She was awesome. She dealt with it. But that was the extent of my social life. And she would come over at like 10, 11. We'd hang out, talk for a few hours, whatever, go to sleep, and then wake up super early. And she dealt with that. She was cool about it. But that was the extent of my social life. And once in a blue moon, I would go to a party. I'd talk in the hallways.
Right.
But everybody knew I never drank, never smoked. Not because I didn't, try it and want to. I was just like hyper focused. Till this day, right. I don't drink. I'm just hyper focused. I don't like being taken out of my element. I always want to be in my element. I have a ton of fun because I think I'm a little bit of a psychopath, but it's who I am. Otherwise you don't do this type of stuff. And that's really it.
See, I like that too. You're being focused is, to me, that's a drug by itself. Like, there's a high that comes from being focused, being driven, knowing what you're going after. And the fact that you don't drink, you don't smoke, it's not because you're turning it down, but it's because you recognize, hey, I don't have time to. Plus, I don't need to be taken away from my life. Like, you're actually enjoying what you're doing. Like, I'm watching you in your office, walking around, pacing around. Like, you enjoyed this.
Yeah.
Man. Like, you genuinely, like, before we even turned the camera on and started this, you said, like, man, I enjoy this. Like, it just came out of your mouth. You're happy with your life.
Yeah.
You're happy with the grind because ultimately you're building towards a future that you want. So let me ask you, what is that future? What are you building right now? What's that empire look like? Where are you 5 years from now, and who is that person?
See, that vision is difficult for me to answer. That question is difficult for me to answer because I don't have the vision ironed out yet. and I don't think I ever will. I love startup culture. I love technology, what it does. I love innovation. That's my passion. That's my fun too. So I've always, I'll give you a breakdown of my past year. I'm ironing out a business model, a property technology business model. 3 months into it, investing $10,000, $20,000, legal fees, accounting, sorting things out. Long story short, doesn't work out. Because I'm like, you know what? This isn't scalable. I don't think I could compete with the competitors. I'm not as passionate as I would have thought about it, and it's not as groundbreaking as I initially would have thought. So I scratch it, and I move on. And while this is all going on, I'm working, 15 to 18 hours a day on my real estate business, which, if you ask me my real estate business goals, 3 years from now, I want $100 million in hard assets. That's outside of $100 million in actual transactional work, just straight hard asset rental-based properties. I want $100 million, and that's where I think I'm going. I'd like $100 million in a year, but I don't think I'll get it in a year. And if COVID didn't happen, I would have done better because I was in contract on a lot of things, and they all fell apart.
Right.
But they didn't. It happened. It fell apart, and now I'm, figuring that out. It was more about maintaining what I have rather than growing fast.
Absolutely.
So I shifted and adapted to that super quick. While all my friends shot out to Miami, I was working, 18 hours a day, making sure nobody's going to take away from me what I've been working for so hard. But, so in 3 years, I think I'll have $100 million of real estate rental properties, and I'm shooting for $1 billion by 30. I'm far off from there. I need to make some big moves to get there, but I think I can.
See, that's big right there. I appreciate the honesty of saying, hey, for certain aspects of my life, I don't have it ironed out. And that's important for a lot of people to hear and understand. You can be very driven and know the direction you want to be pointed in without quite having fully figured out the actual end goal, but that doesn't stop you from starting. Once you know the direction you want to go in, you need to start walking immediately. And as you start getting closer, you're going to start to develop that picture. That image will get developed. A lot of people wait till everything's perfect in their mind until they feel like it to get started, until they've got it all figured out. You're never going to have it all figured
100%.
out. It will never be perfect. You're always going to be finding something new. And what I appreciated the most is you said, I was in this startup space and it wasn't working. It didn't work out the way I thought it was going to be. I wasn't excited about it. I couldn't compete with the competitors. It was just a time drain. It was an energy drain. It just wasn't working. So I pivoted. And a lot of people are scared to do that. They feel that once they've committed to something and once they've told people this is what I'm doing, I now have to stick with it even if it's not working for me anymore. And I've been noticing you are really good about knowing who you are, what works for you. And if it's not working for you, there's no need to waste any more time on it. Get off of it, get onto what is working, double down, triple down on your strength. And that's something recently, that's been a reoccurring theme in my own life. So it's so interesting that the conversation has come here where people need to know that. If it's not working for you, change. Figure something else out. Either replace yourself with someone who does work in that thing, or get yourself to where you're valuable, to where you can provide value and you can get things done.
Exactly. And to touch on that, I think a lot of people struggle with that because they say to themselves, oh my God, I'm going to let down XYZ. And every time I hesitate, I ask myself, why am I hesitating? Who am I scared of? What am I worried about? Who's going to think what of me? Is that what I'm worried about? And then I tell myself, who? And I'm like, there is nobody. My parents, they'll love me unconditionally, so fuck it, I could lose everything. Although that's not the business I'm in. It's rentals, you're never going to lose anything. But regardless, I tell myself, who? There is nobody. It's an image in our head that doesn't exist.
Right.
And that's crucial. You got to reflect on that. All I care about, whose opinion I care about, is my own. And so far, it's been phenomenal. I work on that newspaper model theory. It's like, whatever you do, if it's on the front page of the newspaper,
nice.
How would you feel about it? And I always think back to that. I think we learned that, I was
about to say, I remember I got that in middle school. I went to a Catholic middle school, and they told me, they're like, hey, if you would be ashamed of what the news had to write about what you did last night, don't do it.
Yeah.
And I was just like, fair enough. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
And, this is actually, I'm happy the conversation is going here because I want to ask you, is your mindset something that you consciously work on? Is that a daily practice? Was it a thing you did a long time ago? Is it something that you don't even care about? It is what it is. You were just blessed with a great mindset and an attitude towards success. Like, what's that look like? How do you develop this self-image of yourself?
No, I definitely have to sharpen it all the time. All the time I have to sharpen it. Everybody thinks I am confident because I learn. I like to learn. I love to learn. You'll always find me with books wherever I go, and I don't listen to many podcasts. I don't like to listen as much as I like to learn. Everybody makes fun of me. I have selective hearing. But, when I'm into something, I'm consumed by it. So I'll read so much about it, and then and that's real estate right now. So I'm confident, when I'm stepping into it. And if I don't know something, I ask. I'm not ashamed of anything. If I don't know, I don't know. And if you're going to look at me and tell me, not you, but if somebody looks at me and tells me like, oh, you don't know? No, I have no idea. Teach me. And if you don't want to teach me, the fuck out of here.
See, and that's a beautiful thing, having that transparency, being able to admit, hey, I'm not sure. People respect that more. 100%. And ultimately, I think you're a perfect person to talk on this topic as far as networking with people and working with people who may be in a position that's higher than you. So ultimately, I believe all men are created equal. All people are created equal. However, in the marketplace, we're not equal. There are people that are clearly higher, people that are clearly lower. So the marketplace is this great big divide. However, you can still work and bring value to somebody that's up here and you're here temporarily. Like, this is just where you two happen to meet. So I find that a lot of people are intimidated to talk to the folks that they feel are here when they're here. But if you approach with the confidence and with the transparency and humbleness of saying, I don't know when you don't know, and speaking on what you do know with the confidence that, well, I do know this, they respect that ultimately. And although you might not be in the same position, you're still able to work with them because you present a character that works with them, it vibes with them, and it allows them to do business with you.
But don't forget, you're right. You're 100% right, but don't forget, you have to provide those people some sort of value. As I'm slowly creeping up the ladder, people keep coming to me, and where I was 3-4 years ago, and they're coming to me and asking for that help, and the first thing I ask them is, what's your competitive advantage? What value do you provide me? And if you don't, what's my interest in working with you? You see, what I see in you, I'll tell you the truth. I think you're new to the field, but you're a hustler and you're eager to learn. You post about it regularly. You've called me, I think it was a year ago, and you asked me questions about real estate, and I liked how interested you were. And when you're posting about cold calling and all those things, to see I don't do that anymore. And I'm actually building a team around doing that. I hired a virtual assistant yesterday.
Nice.
I'm building a total team. I brought in my friend from Brooklyn, who's a real hustler, who manages a lot of apartments and buildings in Connecticut that's really interested in getting the island. So we're building that little company. And what I see in you is potentially doing some JV stuff, with bringing in projects maybe that are out of your reach or that you're not confident in yet. And I'll be your strategic side, putting it into my system. That's one. Two, you got a podcast going on, and that's got value to it, right? People want to be heard. Lots of guys in business are narcissists. So I could see you going out there and meeting a lot of big shots because you got a podcast and they want to be on a podcast and get their reach out, and everybody loves talking about themselves. So that's your competitive advantage. That's the value you bring to the table,
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate the kind words that you notice the hustle, because I do put it out there. I do grind so that people can know exactly what it is I'm doing. That way later on, this is all part of the mission to be able to come back and say like, yo guys, I told you, set your mindset first, create the mindset, put in the hustle, work, and let time do its thing. Just stay with it and stay consistent. And ultimately, as far as seeing value, and recognizing, like you said, the podcast, right? It's bringing value to people. This is something I really thought about and I got intentional about. I recognize this as a platform. I want this to be a platform that ultimately brings value to you, that your voice is reaching a new audience of people that it's my network. You haven't tapped into my network, and I'm recognizing that's so important. That's why people work and collaborate with one another. It's because you have your own network that I don't know who those people are. I have my network where you don't know who those people are. And on both of our sides, there's potential for a seed to be planted and it to grow into something just amazingly huge. And I think that is something, I don't know if it was taught to you. It wasn't taught to me. It wasn't mentioned. It wasn't uttered. I came from, so my family's immigrants as well.
Where are you from?
Trinidad. My mother's Trinidadian.
Oh, I didn't
my
know
father's
that.
Jamaican. So they both came here in the country as adults, and they really brought the culture with them. And with that being said, in the home, we came from a place of, we don't go out and tell people our secrets. We don't talk to people openly, and things kind of all stay in the house. So my parents weren't big on going out and networking, and they were hard workers. They just went to work, they came home, stayed with the family. Work, family, work, family.
That's how my parents
That
are.
was it. So we did great for ourselves. We literally built up from nothing. Came here, they got their first house in Queens, moved to Long Island, kept the house in Queens. It's been a rental property for the last 25 years.
It's
We
valuable.
have another property in Brooklyn. We have 2 properties down in Georgia.
Oh, wow.
So we built up this little tiny war chest, a nice little humble war chest for our family. But ultimately, it never expanded past that because we never branched into other networks, into what other people could do for us and what we could do for them. I'm now bringing that to my family, but ultimately it's brand new information to me. And I know if it's new information to me, it's also new information for a lot of other people. When I ask them, hey, like, what do you guys think about networking? What, like going out to a party? No, like, strategically meeting people that you could provide value to them, they could provide value to you, creating strategic friendships. If I'm going to make a friend with anyone anyway, why not do it in a way where we both benefit one another instead of going and creating a friend that, yeah, you're just here for a good time, you're just here for a party. What's the purpose?
Well,
of
that's
that?
almost every friendship, right? It's what do they bring you? And if it's fun, then that's the type of friend you have, right? That's the relationship you have, which is awesome. And then the question is, what's everybody's fun?
Right.
So you might have your parkour friends and you have your business friends, and both of them provide something that the other side doesn't provide, and that's okay. That's awesome. You're this is your life at the end of the day. So I totally agree with everything you're saying, and I surround myself mostly with mostly very high level guys. High level businessmen that we hit it off and we talk a lot, and they love that I love to learn, and I love that they are where they are. All of them are self-made, believe it or not, that I surround myself with. Maybe just because I haven't landed on any friendships with people that aren't self-made, but so far everybody's self-made, and they're awesome people, and they're usually way older than me, from like 30 to 80.
Nice.
And funny enough, I hang out with them all the time. I don't care if they're 30, I don't care if they're 80. I'm 24. So there is a huge age range over there, but at the end of the day, we're all talking about the same things, and we're interested in the same things, and no matter what age somebody is, it's, as a man, it's almost always the same thing, and as a woman, it's almost always the same thing.
Yep, it's absolutely true.
So
let me ask you, because I find this in my own personal life, so I'm curious if it's the same for you. I find that the people that are attracted to me, that I'm attracted to, that start to come into my network and into my life, are reflections of myself. That there's something in me that's resonating and pulling us all together. So you just said you meet with these guys 30, 40, 50, 80 years old, self-made. I look at you and I'm like, self-made. Like, I know your story, your backstory. You're a self-made guy. You're a self-made man, and you're continuing to build an empire. So when you say to me, like, yeah, I'm hanging out with these dudes that are 50 years old, but they're self-made, and I don't know any trust fund babies, or like I don't really connect with trust fund babies who just had the silver spoon, who are those sort of individuals, like, yeah, it makes perfect sense to me. So do you find in your life that you start to attract more of what you are of yourself, just in other people?
Yeah, I think so. I think you hit it right on the money. I think you really did, actually. It's a great way to put it. I never thought that deeply into it, but coming from you, like you saying that, I put the image in my head, and I definitely have to agree. I meet so many trust fund babies and kids, and it's not that I dislike them. I don't. They're usually cool guys, but man, either the vision isn't there, or they don't know what it's like to appreciate what we had to come from.
Right.
So that connection just isn't there the way it sometimes is. Like, a lot of guys, I'll head out, I'm doing a project in the Hamptons, so I'm always shooting out there. I'm looking for more projects there. I'm trying to buy a motel out there, trying to build something else out there. I'm trying to open a 7-Eleven gas station out there, like all
nice.
sorts of things. Yeah, I'm really trying to get my hands into everything over there, and because it's its own world. And I never went to the Hamptons growing up. The once in a while drives I would do is when we would pack up our van. Get this, we would pack up our van that we would do mattress deliveries out of. My father would bust his ass morning to night, and he would say, you know, let's it's Saturday at 1 o'clock, there's no deliveries, let's go drive by the Hamptons, see the houses, you know, appreciate what people have built. That's how I was brought up. Not like, you know, so we would drive out there, we'd look at these houses, and I'd say, one day we'll have that house. And, you know, they would always reassure me, my parents, one day we will because of you, you know, and I loved hearing that, and I was always like, one day I promise we'll have it, you know, and now I'm out there building 16.
I love it, but you have no idea how powerful that is to me, and it's so funny you say that, because this is something I don't share with a lot of people. Growing up, I would actually, like, ride my bike or drive my car when I finally got a car, and I would drive through nice neighborhoods. I would go into, like, Garden City and go into Hewlett Harbor, and I would actually just slowly cruise around the neighborhood and pretend I was driving home, pretend I was going to one of my houses.
That's awesome.
I even at one point pulled into a driveway, and I pulled all the way into the driveway and just pretended I was coming in. Now, weird story, when I did this, I pulled in far enough that they had a kitchen with a full glass door.
Don't tell me they were there.
I look, and the entire family is sitting having a meal, and I'm just like this black kid sitting in my car, in my Honda, in their driveway, and I'm like, and like they're just like freaking out a little bit. I just slowly just start backing out. And
that's hilarious.
But I used to do the same thing. I had to get a little bit of a taste of it so I can know what it's like to envision it in here, and then ultimately bring it into this world out here. Even, I was just talking to a friend of mine, I was like, yo, let's go test drive some M3s and some M4s, because ultimately, I like fast cars. I know I'm going to buy a fast, like, I'm not materialistic, but I'm going to buy some fast cars because I enjoy driving them for the actual experience of driving.
Yeah, and that's fine.
I want to go sit and get the feel of it and start to teach my body and train my body and ultimately train my mind on, hey, you're going to acquire this. You're going to make this happen.
And you know, a lot of people would say like, yo, that's weird. You know, and it is weird. And you know what? I'm fucking weird, man. I am weird. You know, like I'll sit down for 4 hours on my floor. I'll lay down and just think. That's weird. Dude. You know, but that's part of it. That's part of it. You have to be, you know, I used to love, I think it was Dr. Seuss, you have to be odd to be number one. And it's the truth.
It is.
You know?
And you know what's funny? You say it's weird to lay down and think for a few hours. I think it's weird to not. I truly, like, people don't think. Like, really. One of Bob Proctor always says, you know, 2% of people think, 3% of people think they think, and 95% of people don't think at all. And it's true. You really walk around, you see people, they're just not using this. And ultimately, this is where everything else comes from. So the fact that you would lay there and you would train your brain, train your mind, it shows now, because your results, ultimately when you're doing that, you're consciously training your subconscious conditioning, which is changing the vibrancy of your body, which is changing the actions that you take, which is changing the results that you achieve, which ultimately feed back into the loop and create more of that result.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I think it's not crazy at all, and I'm happy to hear that you actively do think and that you use that mind every single day. So let me ask you, with your social media account is well put together. Your Instagram, like,
you think so?
I think so. At least.
I think it's weak.
Well, all right. Well, from my opinion, it looks good. Like I look at it, and I'm like, all right, he's out there grinding. He's meeting good people. He's enjoying his life, and it paints a pretty picture of your life. And we kind of tapped into the fact that, well, there's a lot of work going on behind. So what are some of the struggles that people don't see? Like, what I want to know, basically, have there been moments where you have just been at that breaking point where you're like, I want to quit? Like, you're just like an inch away from just giving up and just saying, screw this, and I'm just going to go get a typical 9 to 5. And
no, that's never happened. No, that's definitely never happened.
Yo, I love it.
That not even close to ever happened. You know, it's more so like, you know, almost crying at night from how much pain my body's in or my mind's in, or that I can't sleep. You know, I slept 3.5 hours last night. To be exact, 3 hours, 45 minutes I slept last night.
Wow.
Every day this week I've slept like 3 to 4 hours. And and sometimes my body's screaming at me. I don't drink coffee, and I think I should, but I don't want to. I don't want to rely on something to give me that energy.
Yeah, me and you are the same there.
Yeah.
I love it.
And I'm just like, man, it's 2 a.m. I worked, say 16 hours that day, and I'm back home and I'm just writing down my ideas, and I'm just like, just fucking sleep, man, just sleep, and just sleep. Wake up in the morning, get back to it. But so that's definitely brutal on a regular basis. But I also take trips, to offset that. I'll take a 4-day trip, shut off my phone for 2 days, nobody talk to me, see sights, go snowboarding, go surfing, something exciting, not talk to anyone. Sometimes I go alone, sometimes I go with family, sometimes I go with friends, and refresh and come back. I meditate, for 10-20 minutes to get that, that refresh, quick, and I do things like that. I get a lot of chest pains all the time from all the pressure I'm under, and when that happens, I usually cut everybody off, give myself a few hours to just think, and it goes away, and then I'm back to it.
Nice. That's important right there, and I think that's a natural part of the game. It's a natural part of the cycle. It's a natural part of life. As you do a lot, you're capable of a lot, but also you need to relieve that pressure. I like using the analogy of a hot water heater, right? That thing we all got in our basement, gives us hot water for our showers. That thing is capable of heating water up to excess of 400 degrees Celsius, right? And it can do this for a long time, 15, 20 years if you take care of it. However, every one of those boilers down there, they have a pressure relief valve, right? So it has to release the pressure on the inside. If that pressure relief valve does not function, that hot water heater will blow up within a week. Something that could last 15 to 20 years will explode and implode within 1 week because it didn't release the pressure. So you saying that you go and take 4-day trips or you sit and meditate, that's your pressure relief, and that's important for people to know. Like, yeah, you do get stressed out. You do start to redline the vehicle that is your body, but you start to back off. You recognize the signs of like, okay, I've been redlining the car a little bit too hard. Let me back off. Let me rest. Let me do what it needs to recuperate, whether that be chilling with friends or chilling alone. And ultimately, you use your mind to think, what do I need in this moment?
Yeah.
Not just, well, what's everyone else doing? Everyone's going to the bar on Saturday, let me go to the bar on Saturday. No, that's not what I need. Maybe I need to sit in my room and stare at the fucking wall for 2 hours and not talk to a soul.
Yeah.
That's sometimes what you need. So that's cool to see that you're so in tune with yourself, with the vehicle that is your human body, and you recognize and respect, or at least it sounds like you really recognize and respect it, which is insane. I don't think a lot of guys tap into that, especially, I won't even say like this young, a lot of people in general don't tap into that. And I'm sure you've noticed this as you've gone out and you've met a lot of individuals who don't quite understand why their bodies are constantly hurting, why they're constantly, things aren't quite working out all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, well, you're ignoring the signs that your body is giving to you. You need to listen, be on team. Like this and me, like, we're not our bodies, we have bodies, right? I mean, I don't know if you agree with that, but that's something I preach to everyone I speak to, especially kids when I talk to them. Like, you are not your body. Listen to the language you use. My hand, my arm, my leg, my chest. Who's the my that all this stuff belongs to, right? You are this conscious being. You're this mind, right? And you control the body. Absolutely, you work with the body. You're connected to the body, but you are not the body. So when the body starts giving you feedback, you need to listen to that feedback. The same way if your car started clonking out on you and started giving you feedback, you would listen to the car because you are separate from the car and you recognize the car needs things that you don't quite require, but the car requires. So that's really cool, man. So
Well said.
Yeah, man. So I want to ask you like 2 more questions, really. When you find people to work with, what is it that you are looking for in individuals that you decide, all right, I'm gonna work with you, I'm gonna go forward with you? Do you have a set criteria? Is there like a certain thing that is foundational to a relationship that you have as a work relationship?
I mean, almost with everybody, it's a comparative advantage to me. What makes them different from me, and how can our strengths be utilized to maximize what we're going for. So I've had a lot of partners that two specifically that fucked me real bad in our business. So ever since that, I pivoted, and it's more so been taking on investors, and I haven't taken on active investors. I've taken on investors that have their own lives and their own businesses, and they utilize me as their vehicle to acquire real estate and partner with them and get the construction done and everything. And we go over, we go over financials like once a month, once every quarter, once every 6 months with some people. That's where I'm at right now because of those guys that have hurt me. Now I'm bringing on more partners again for things that I don't necessarily succeed at, like sourcing deals on a larger basis than what I'm doing right now. Right now I'm sourcing deals just to buy them all. And I'm looking all day long, but I'm one person at the end of the day. So now I'm building an acquisition team with somebody who's passionate about sourcing deals, and he can't really hurt me. I'm trying to think of ways that he can hurt me, and the worst thing I could think of is he takes a deal from me. And at the end of the day, that would just be a reflection of his character, which I don't think he'll do. I think we have an aligned vision to find properties. Basically, my side will acquire them, and he'll get his fees, for finding those properties and dealing with it. And in the meantime, he's plugging into my system that I have here, and I have the buy side taken care of. So he's really happy about that, and he wants to stay and figure out how to find more properties all day. I think that's a really great comparative advantage on his end, and it aligns with what I'm trying to do. So I picked him. We're working together. Other than that, it's financial investors. If they're too much of a headache, I'll tell them, please, I don't want to work with you. And I've done that many times. I've told guys, heavy guys, with tons of money, I'm like, I just don't want to work with you. No offense. It's not me, it's you. I don't like your attitude towards things. Oh, somebody put me down once. We're in a room filled with people going over projects, talking about things, and they called me to the meeting. And the guy has the audacity to make fun of me. He tells me, like, what I've built is not a big deal, whatever. He's got more than me. Said, more power to you. You're 54 years old, whatever it is, but good luck on your own, because I'm not working with you, And then it turned to like, you're only a kid. Who are you to tell me I'm not working with you? I'm like, I'm Allon Avgi, bro. I'm who I am. I'm telling you, I'm not going to work with you, for you, nothing in my life, and if you want it to get rough, I'm right here. I'm not nobody's bitch.
I love it, man. I absolutely love it because you're self-aware, man. You know who you are. You know the value you bring. You know what you want, and you're not willing to let people compromise on your core principles, on who you are, and you're not going to let people step on that. Now, it's something that's tough for a lot of guys, especially when they're young and they're stepping into a space where you're coming in and, your partners are potentially these 55-year-old guys who are established, who have a track record, who have funding, who have money, who have experience.
And you always have to gauge the room. You always have to gauge who you're talking to, what they bring to the table, what you don't. This meeting specifically I told you about, I got called there to help them raise money for projects in the pipeline. So they wanted me. I didn't want them. And then when they're telling me, they're trying to put me down and tell me why they're better than me and everything, I don't want any part of that.
Right.
When I'm having a great conversation with somebody like yourself, if you bring me a project, we'd figure out some sort of JV or something where you're happy and I'm happy. And if not, Marlon, good luck. I'm here to support you 100%. And maybe you can make the more money on somebody else. And I'm here for you and I'll guide you. I'll sit in with those meetings with you. But it's not for me.
Right.
And that's okay.
And I think that's something that a lot of people don't respect anymore, and it's just like, hey, we don't need to, if we can't create a win-win, we don't have to do this. We don't have to get into a relationship. We don't have to get into a partnership. We don't have to work together. And it doesn't mean that we hate each other. It doesn't mean we now need to be enemies. It just means, hey, this isn't working for me, or this isn't working for you, so let's not settle on each other. There's no need to settle on each other, but that's something you only know once you start to tap into knowing who you are, knowing what you want. When you're clear on that, you now recognize the difference between settling and making things work and making things good for everyone. So that's really cool, man. I appreciate hearing that answer. That's actually a ridiculously cool answer. I was not expecting that.
Thank you.
So now it's one of my favorite questions, the last two. One, what's one of your favorite books to read?
Oh, man. So there's one book I don't recommend it to everyone because it's a serious book. You need to have an open mind. And my good friend, first investor, and tennis buddy Mike Seaman actually recommended it to me. And he's recommended so many books. And I picked them up and I'm like, this is okay, this is okay, this is okay. He's like, you gotta read this one. And it's called 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel.
0 to 1.
0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. He recommended this book. I didn't pick up a book for 3 months. 3 months I didn't want to look at another book because it opened my mind so much. And once in a blue moon I recommend it to somebody that I think really should read it. You know, like it's a very specific book for a specific type of person. It's if you want to be like an ultra businessman and large scale person like a Bezos, Peter Thiel, Elon Musk type of guy. That's not for everybody, and that's okay. A lot of people build a business, make tons of money, make hundreds of millions of dollars a year, but that's not 0 to 1, you know. So anyway, that's my all-time favorite book. Another book I do like a lot, and I recommend it to a ton of people just so they stay real to who they are and appreciate what's behind the scenes, is called Inside the Magic Kingdom. I recommend that all the time. It's a great book. It outlines Disney and what really goes on. And they're real. They walk the walk. And, you know, one of my mentors, somebody I idolized named Michael Schvo, he recommended that book to me. He actually bought it and gave it to me when I used to go into his office in the city and learn from him. He's a major developer, self-made guy, really cool guy. So I like that book too. And then there's another business book. It's a little boring. It's dry, but it's extremely informational. And it's definitely good for anybody in business, no matter what stage you're at, because it makes you reflect on building systems and what you really should do. That's called The E-Myth Revisited.
I had a feeling you were going to say that.
By Michael E. Gerber. You read it?
Yeah, that one I'd recommend. If anyone ever says they're thinking about starting a business, I say don't do it until you read this book.
Yeah, it's
don't
a great book.
Start anything till you read this book.
Great book.
Man, that's awesome. Dude, the 0 to 1, like your whole energy, this whole room just like felt the vibe as you started talking about that. So, and it kind of puts into my mind the scale that you're really looking to go to. So that's insane. That was the best recommendation on a book I think I've ever heard.
Yeah.
So now I'm very curious to go check it out. And I don't even think I want to get to that Bezos level, but that 0 to 1 recommendation.
You should buy the book, put it on the side for a year, and then read it. Because I'm telling you, it's like a high level, big thinking book. It's like you really need to want to become, and forget ultra billionaire. You know, you could do it in the nonprofit world. You need to want to revolutionize this planet.
Okay.
You know, throughout that book, and you'll like it.
That's big. All right, I like that a lot. So
you know what's funny? A funny story. One of my he's my second cousin, Sean Magira. He's also a really good friend of mine. He's like, I need a book that will change my life, and I'm like, you know what? Read this book. I gave him 0 to 1, and I didn't hear from him in like 2 weeks. And 2 weeks later, he's like, hey, shutting down my business. He's making $20,000 a month.
Wow.
He's like, I'm shutting down my business, starting everything over. This is not what I want to do. I'm going to revolutionize something eventually, and when I figure it out, it's going to be a game changer. In the meantime, I'm going to do things much higher level and make much more money, much faster, so I can get there. And, you know, I spoke to him a few hours ago. I hope he doesn't mind. Sean, I hope you don't mind. He's doing $11,000 in daily sales right now.
Wow.
On a new business. He started it a month ago, and he's giving all the credit to the fact that I recommended him this book that made him drop everything he was doing. And I'm so proud of him. Sean, I'm proud of you.
See, that's insane right there, because that to me is proof, that's living testimony of the power of getting this right first. Taking a book, taking that information, absorbing that information, and letting it come into you, it changes everything. It changes perception, it changes reality, it changes action. Everything gets warped by what you know. Having that knowledge, having that information in you, that's a game changer.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited, man. So now my final question, this one's my favorite. So let's imagine that you forget everything you know, right? Tomorrow morning you wake up, you don't remember anything, but you don't remember your name, you don't remember who you are, you don't remember your friends that you've made, you don't remember any of the technical skills that you've built up until this point. Nothing. However, you are left with one bit of wisdom, one bit of knowledge that you know to be true for a fact, and you won't ever question it. Like, you just know this bit of information, and you don't know why you know it, but you know it's right, and you're never going to question it. What is that information that's left in your head? What do you want to be left there?
Multifamily real estate's a foolproof way to make money. That way I can build on that.
I love that.
That'll give me a base. If I had nothing other than one thought, it would be that multifamily real estate is a foolproof way to make residual income.
Damn. You know what I really appreciate about that answer?
What?
That you sat and thought. That you really just sat and you're like, let me think about what I want to say.
I'm thinking to myself rental real estate, but I'm like, it's not true. Because retail takes dives regularly. Industrial is location based. Multifamily is foolproof anywhere in the country. North Dakota had a stint temporarily, but Section 8 is always there to back you up. And then you could build on that and learn everything from there.
No, it's absolutely true. I mean, our multifamilies have never gone south, ever. They've always been good to us.
How many years? 30 years?
We're going to be coming up on 30 years, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, so it's just, you're absolutely right. So that's a wonderful piece of advice. That's something that a lot of people can think about as they start to build, as their brains start thinking about, well, what can I start doing for the future? That's a beautiful seed to plant. Plant it in your head, think on it, ponder on it, and let that grow into something. So, Allon, I seriously appreciate this so much. This was crazy valuable for me. This was crazy. I know it's going to be crazy valuable for everyone that's listening. And for people that want to learn more about you, where can they find you? Where can they follow you? How can they get in contact with you?
They could hop on my social media anywhere, at Allon Avgi. Unlike everything, I think, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, just DM me, and I answer everyone. So I will answer you. I get hit with tons of DMs. I answer tons of questions, and I love to, tell people my feedback and opinions on everything that they want to do and ideas. I think it's what it's all about.
Dude, awesome. Yo, man, thank you so much.
Hell yeah. It was a pleasure.
That was fun.
Good podcast?